coach from Akron, John Gross. From Cleveland State, Dennis Felton. From Kent State, Rob Senderoff. And from Youngstown State, Jared Calhoun. And on behalf of CSU Athletic Director Mike Thomas, I join him in welcoming administrators from opposing schools here today and everybody for joining us. There'll be an opportunity for all of you to ask questions to our coaches up here. There'll also be an opportunity afterwards for some one-on-ones as well. So we'll get started today. I'd like to introduce Sarah Wells, our Executive Director for the American Cancer Society, and she has worked with the schools on this initiative. Sarah?
Good afternoon. So what started as a vision to challenge fans to pledge money in the fight against cancer by legendary University of Missouri coach Norm Stewart has evolved over the past 25 years into the national program Coaches vs. Cancer. It has raised nearly $110 million nationwide in the fight against cancer, and we are so proud to host a Coaches vs. Cancer event right here in Northeast Ohio. Thank you to Coach Dennis Felton, Coach John Gross, Coach Jared Calhoun, and Rob Senderoff, and their coaching staff and basketball programs for teaming up with the American Cancer Society for our Coaches vs. Cancer program. On November 10th, we are going to host here at Cleveland State our annual Coaches vs. Cancer doubleheader event, and I'm thrilled to have that event coming here to Cleveland State in our 4th consecutive year. These games will be more than basketball games. They will help the American Cancer Society save lives and inspire hope. The University of Akron will take on Youngstown State, and Cleveland State will host Kent State on November 10th. The 4 coaches, through their passion for the games and the promotion of healthy lifestyles, are elevating cancer within their schools, their communities, and throughout the nation. And again, thank you so much, coaches, for being a part of this partnership. You're truly helping the American Cancer Society provide hope, support, and also helping answer the nearly 15.5 million cancer survivors living in the U.S. today, providing answers and support to those in need. Also, please note that we've got some pink on stage for Breast Cancer Awareness Month and in support of the American Cancer Society's Real Men Wear Pink initiative. The 4 coaches, Coach Felton, Coach Gross, Coach Calhoun, and Coach Senderoff, have also been wearing the color to raise money specifically in the fight against breast cancer. So thank you so much for extending your leadership on and off the court again in that purpose as well. 1 of every 2 people have a lifetime risk of developing cancer. And together, we are fighting that to make sure that we make the greatest impact and save more lives. Please join us on November 10th to cheer on these great teams, help save lives, and celebrate lives. Every shout counts, every life counts, and thank you so much for having the American Cancer Society as part of this incredible partnership.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, first up, I want to ask a question to each one of the coaches here, and then we'll ask a few more here, too, and then open up to everybody here. But first, guys, we'll start with Coach Gross on the end, and we'll work our way down. The significance of playing in this Coaches vs. Cancer doubleheader coming up on November 10th here at the Wolstein Center. Akron versus YSU at 4:30, Kent State at CSU at 7. Coach, what is the significance for you and your program?
Well, as Sarah mentioned, it's twofold. Obviously, there's the basketball component. We're all excited to start our season. I think our guys are sitting up here in the front. They'll tell you they get tired of going against themselves every day and look forward to competing against others. So there's that part of it and that element, but there's also the impact that Sarah's talking about. And for me, obviously I got up this morning, was thinking about the event, the pink tie. Sarah talked about everyone here's, kind of their fight or willingness to support the fight against breast cancer during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've certainly done that. So that's the pink. My mother gave me the purple pancreatic cancer fight pin. My grandmother passed from the disease in '06, and we were very, very close. And then Coach Pete, as we were talking on the way up, Jamond, our lone senior, was on the team when Coach Pete was on the staff. I know Jared and others know him quite well also. He lost the fight against pancreatic cancer. So we we all know people indirectly or directly that have been impacted or affected by it. And so the opportunity to join hands with the American Cancer Society and be a part of this event certainly runs a lot deeper than just the basketball piece.
I think Cleveland State will do a tremendous job, so hopefully all the fans come out and see these two games. Sarah, you've done a tremendous job. She has worked tirelessly on this event, visiting all of our campuses to make sure that this thing will continue. I love the format. I think the format's awesome. I think it gives us, the Horizon League, a chance to go against the MAC. I like how we alternate playing a team each year. We're not having the same lineup. So we're excited about it. We can't wait to get the season started. Thank you.
All right, coaches, thanks. A couple of questions, one for each of you. We'll go down the line and get a chance to talk a little bit about this year's team. And Coach Gross, we'll start with you in terms of personnel. Your 2018-19 team, very different than last season. Tell me a little bit about this new cast that you have.
Well, first we have three of our players here, Jamond Ivey, senior, Dan Utomi, junior, Christian Jackson, sophomore, that traveled up with us today, so you have an opportunity to talk with them as well. It is different. You know, I feel certainly, I've always felt like now this is the third time I've started at a place. I feel like the second year you feel a little bit more comfortable than certainly you do in the first. And then really start to gain traction, in my opinion, as you start to head into the third year. But, you know, for our group, it's interesting. We really don't have, you look at it and we're experienced from the standpoint of the age in our roster and the years that guys are in school. But from a familiarity standpoint with the league or Division I college basketball, we have a ton of newcomers. Or in, for example, Christian's case, he sat out last year on the transfer from Long Beach State, so hadn't played in a while till this last weekend against outside competition, and he did in our scrimmage. So, you know, those guys we're trying to find our way. And we talk a lot about earning the right. You know, obviously we have, you know, big time goals and expectations at Akron, and we don't shy away from those. But we also talk with our guys a lot, and we were talking about on the way up in the car, we've got to earn the right to be in those type of conversations. We haven't earned that right yet with this group. So we're attacking it one day at a time. I love our group. Had one of my coaching friends that's in our coaching family called me yesterday, and I told him, I said, I love going to practice with these guys. It's awesome. We've got a special group of guys. They want to be good. They're coachable. And they've let us push them pretty hard. We've still got a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to push them pretty hard. But I really like our group and the possibility of the things that this group can accomplish.
Very good, Coach. Coach Felton, we got to see Tyree Appleby last year as a freshman here, one of the most exciting freshmen in the HL. He's voted to the preseason first team All-Horizon League. His development, how do you see that going from his freshman year into his sophomore year?
Well, I think the first thing he has to deal with is probably those expectations and the added burden of, as just a second-year player, becoming the leader of the team. It's not something usually asked of a second-year player, but I think he's excited about the challenge. Tyree had an excellent freshman year that got a lot of people's attention, and the good news is he's worked hard to build on that. He's going to be a bigger, stronger player physically this year, and he was able to accumulate so much experience on the court last year that he is, you know, he should be more ready and more mature than the average sophomore.
Let's move to Coach Senderoff. Question for you. A lot of success in your past has come from the size that you had, maybe a little bit smaller team this year. So the adjustments you have to make with the new personnel going into this season.
Yeah, we'll play a little bit differently this year than we have in years past. I do want to make sure that I introduce real quickly my three seniors that came up with me, Jalen Walker, Jalen Avery, and A.K. Frederick. You know, we'll play a little bit differently than we have in the past, but the foundation of our program will always remain the same. The reason I brought the three seniors is because for us, we play for our seniors every year. And I expect those three guys to lead us, to have three really good seasons, which is what we normally have had out of our seniors. And regardless of who's on the team or who's playing with size or not size, we're going to compete really hard, and we're going to play for those guys. And it's really the foundation of our program. So while you may see some changes in terms of how we play stylistically, at the end of the day, you want to play with toughness, you want to compete for each other, and you certainly want to see your seniors have tremendous success that last year.
Very good. Coach Calhoun, you've got an exciting young player too in Nazmo Hanan here. He had 259 rebounds last year. That was a record. Going into his sophomore year, kind of like Tyree Appleby for Cleveland State, he's another guy that you're going to look to kind of lead your team, correct?
Yeah, I think he's done a tremendous job in the offseason. I think what you'll see is a little more skilled player in Nas. He's really spent a lot of time in the gym, along with a lot of our newcomers. So we're really excited about what he can do. As Coach Felton said, when you get a little bit of expectations on the preseason all Horizon League teams, you got to keep working, and I think he's that type of player.
Very good. All right, we'll go one more round with these guys, and we'll open up the questions to you. Back to Coach Gross. The most significant differences and challenges for the Zips here heading into your second year at Akron compared to your first year?
Well, I think just culturally, we've really focused on trying to build our culture on concrete, ground up, and these guys have a lot to do with that. Obviously Christian joined us pretty quickly when I took the job last year. We took him and a couple other transfers, and they've been great for us. Dan and Jamon made the decision to stay committed to the University of Akron and jump in with 2 feet, and I can't thank those guys enough. I mean, they understand, I think, now as we head into the second year, what we expect more. And we'll hold them accountable no differently than we will the rest of the guys. But I'm looking for a lot from them, very similar to what Rob talked about. Albeit Jamon's the only senior, Dan's really experienced, Christian's experienced, Dang Riak, some other guys that played college basketball at a pretty high level. And those are the guys your tradition is carried out, or your culture's carried out from the guys in the locker room, And so I think we're getting closer. By no means have we arrived, but I feel a lot better about where we're at foundationally right now in terms of our core stuff, who we are inside that locker room, how we do things on a daily basis, and certainly these guys deserve a lot of credit for that.
Coach Felton, you've got a lot of new players coming in. Lost 6 kids last year due to graduation. So this summer you had the opportunity to go to Italy on a foreign trip. What benefits did that provide to your program?
Right. Well, coming into this at Cleveland State, we knew that we were basically going to be starting over from scratch 2 years straight, because obviously last year, this being my first year, and a lot of players being thrust into, lead roles as contributors that they had never done before in their careers, but then a bunch of them graduated, so we really only returned 3 players that were significant contributors last season. So the vast majority of our team is new. The good news is we're more talented, and we have more players that fit the style that we want to play, but we are young and that we are new to each other. So the idea behind the trip to Italy this year, we actually postponed it a year because we thought it'd be more valuable to this team to just try to get somewhat of a head start on putting this team together and having them as prepared as possible with a bunch of newcomers for this season, this first season. A lot of first-year major college players and a lot of guys playing together for the first time. So Italy provided that opportunity, not just the games that we played over there, but the fact that you get to practice. You have real team practices, 10 days heading into that event. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to have made that trip, and I think we got the experience out of it that we intended to.
Very good. Coach Sendroff, you've got some new players coming in, obviously. You have some senior leadership, some returners as well. How is that blend going with the returners and the new kids?
It's so far, I really give our guys a ton of credit. Up to this point, our kids have really bought into being a team, and we played our first exhibition game on Saturday. 10 guys played in the game. 6 of those 10 had not played a game, at Division I level last year. So to see us mesh day in and day out, led by these 3 guys that are here, we've started the season the way you would want your group to start, and obviously this is a long journey between now and March, and you want to see continued progress on a daily basis. But our seniors, and you have 2 4-year guys there that really know the culture and know what we're trying to do and what the expectations are. And then AK, as one of our lone returning front court kids, has done a really good job of leading that group with his energy every day in practice. And I think guys feed off of the returning guys, and these guys are all in their 2nd year at the universities are at. You hear everybody say the same thing when you're back for your 2nd year. Guys understand what you're looking for. This is my 8th year, so by this point they may be tired of me, but they understand what we're trying to get done every day, and our upperclassmen have done a great job with that.
All right, Coach Calhoun, you set a single-season record in steals last year with 266. Do you expect your team to top that this year?
No, probably not. We're not pressing nearly as much as we did last year, but you know, as far as our group, it's probably the most skilled group that I've been around in a long time. We got about 8 or 9 kids that all shoot the 3. Very long, athletic, can switch a lot of stuff. So I really like our group. I think if these kids continue to develop, we got a chance to be pretty good. You know, as Coach Gross said with his team, when you can't wait to get up and go to work every day, and you enjoy being around your team, I think good things will happen. So we're excited.
Very good. All right, coaches, great answers there, and we'll open up the questions to our group here. And while you're thinking about your questions, I want to remind you that once again the date is Saturday, November 10th, with Akron and Youngstown State at 4:30, Kent State and Cleveland State at 7 o'clock. And to get tickets, lower level tickets start at $15. That covers both games. A portion of the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society, so it's really for a great cause as well. For tickets, you can go to csuvikings.com or call 216-687-4848. That's 216-687-4848, csuvikings.com to get tickets for the event. So let's open it up to the media now. Which one of you would like to start off with a question for one or all of the coaches? Much.
Guys, I've seen a lot of FRs and SOs next to players' names, so anyone who wants to start off, you have to have that upperclassman leadership, the quote-unquote coach on the floor. I've seen all you guys coach, so I know what it's like. But you'd be served definitely for the next few years as you build. Jared, you can take that one.
Yeah, we got 4 freshmen, 2 that are really, really good, one that's got a chance, and then one that's got to keep getting better. But I think what you see at our level, the mid-major level, most teams that make deep tourney runs, most teams that win their league or win their conference tournament have a lot of guys back. So I think, you know, for us, we're really relying on a lot of these new guys going into year 2, and you kind of got to rebuild it. You need your new guys to come along. And I think the summertime now is really, really important. I think these scrimmages are really, really important. And then I think surviving your non-conference and getting better each day. We're all in different situations, you know. Us in Youngstown, we got to play a few bye games. You know, some of these schools up here are buying people. You know, we're not to that level yet. So I think sometimes the non-conference records are a little bit different for each of us. But our goal is just to bring those young guys along, understand it's a process, try to get them better. As you're getting game experience, you know, like we open up with Pitt, first game of the year. We've got Ohio State, we've got West Virginia. You know, it's going to be a very challenging non-conference schedule, but you just try to stay positive with your guys and get a little better each day.
Yeah, on my roster, we have 2 freshmen, 1 sophomore. But with that I said, we also had 6 guys that did not play last year for us. So, you know, sometimes you can be inexperienced, but not necessarily be young. And that's where we may be right now. And again, I say this almost the answer to every question. You look towards your seniors to lead you, or your guys that have returned. And I hear Coach Felton and Coach Calhoun, they have sophomores that are all conference preseason guys. Well, they're going to be looking towards younger guys to lead them. I'm looking towards older guys to lead us, and the guys that have experience to bring those young guys around. And everybody's excited about their freshmen, and then they go and play, and then you realize they're still freshmen. So you want to bring them along, and you want to see those guys improve. And you know what, I feel really good about the 2 freshmen that we've brought in, and I think that they're going to be really good contributors to our program, you know, in time, and hopefully this year we're going to need both of them to help us maintain our success.
Well, you've heard the comment, the blind leading the blind. You know, we've got the young leading the young. And we had a scrimmage recently also, and there were some things that, you know, it was all to be expected, but it still didn't mean I was pleased about some things that happened in our scrimmage. And then, but what brought it home afterwards, when I really studied the tape, it became clear that most of the most egregious, you know, mistakes or breakdowns all happened by the youngest guys, you know, and it wasn't as bad as I thought during the game. So, you know, when you're a coach like several of us up here, it's just you have to go out of your way to try to develop, to try to rush the maturation process, but you can only rush it so much. And you try to, you know, you go out of your way to try to develop leadership as quickly as you can, but at the same time knowing that when you're really young, you know, most of the leadership is still going to be coming from the coaching staff. But I think you have to do everything you can to teach guys how to lead. But there's only so much you can get done without actual experience, you know, without guys gaining the experience themselves. So it's that battle of you know, being impatient while trying to be realistically patient. And but it's, you know, for us, I'm really excited though, because just because of the talent level of our young guys. So you know, we can do something with that. We just have to know that it'll take some time, and we'll have to learn some lessons along the way.
We're kind of a combination of Rob and Dennis's thoughts there. A lot like Rob's team, you know, if you look at our roster, you know, for example, this past weekend we scrimmaged in the first 20 minutes, we didn't play a freshman. So you'd think that we're very experienced and really old. We are older, as I mentioned earlier, from a grade level perspective, but we had guys playing for the first time that had sat out. We had junior college transfers playing against a Division I opponent for the first time. You know, so inside that rotation of, you know, 9 or 10 guys, you know, for the most part, our guys are sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but have not played together. So there's a synchronization process that you go through with that. I think especially on the offensive side, you know, my friend Stan Van Gundy always says it's a little harder on that end sometimes with synchronization, because it's 5 guys plus a ball on that end. You know, so we're trying to figure all that out, and guys are doing a good job. I think they're buying in. But no different than Rob from his perspective. He talked about his older guys. I alluded to that earlier. You know, we're going to go as our experienced players from a Division I perspective, lead us, their response to adversity, their response to success. We were talking about on the way up, you know, hey, the detail, like right now we haven't went into full-fledged scouting mode yet. You know, when that happens, you know, we've got a lot of newcomers. They're going to be going through that, through our processes for the first time. So it's new for a lot of our guys right now. But again, you know, as I said earlier, I've got a great group. They're very, very coachable. They want to be good. They listen. You know, obviously the conversation up here about leadership, you know, some of our older guys, I shared with them in a couple of our meetings, like it really starts with them listening. I think sometimes when you're an older guy, you kind of get that viewpoint that, hey, the young guys, the newcomers should all listen to me. I have valuable things to share, which is true. But at the same time, I think the best leaders that I've been around, I've been very fortunate to be around and watch a lot of great leaders over 25 years. Those guys also have the gift of listening, and they listen really well to the newcomers and the younger guys, and they connect with them and relate to them, and that gives them more of a platform to lead. So these guys are working very hard at that, and I think have done a great job of working to connect with a lot of our newcomers, and it's a big reason why I think we're making, you know, good progress thus far through the preseason.
Very good. Elton?
Two questions for all the coaches. One, just from a basketball standpoint, and it's probably just me, I'm curious to who your two scrimmages have been against. Just in my mind, that gives me an idea of where you are. You can say who you scrimmage. You can't tell how you scrimmage.
No, I don't think we're allowed to even discuss who was going.
I thought you could say who you.
Even though box scores are out there. Some of them.
Yeah, I've seen box scores. I've even seen lists.
Yeah.
All right, well.
You would be the guy, Elton, that would ask us. I appreciate the first question there. Some things never change.
And thank you very much. And the other thing, can you guys talk about playing Horizon Mac from the standpoint of style of play? I think every league has their kind of style of play, so to speak, or what, some leagues, all leagues is mid-major or guard level, but some are 3-4 leagues, some leagues are 4-5 leagues, that are difference making. Can you talk about just dealing with that in a series like this and how that prepares you for the season?
You'll start down there, you bring it back down.
Our scrimmage was an exhibition game, so I can tell you we played Robert Morris on Sunday. That was a hurricane relief game, so we tried to raise some funds for the American Red Cross, so that was public. I guess the other one I can't talk about, so that's coming up this weekend. But I just think playing these games are really good early season tests to get you ready for league play. And I don't know, each team has a different style, but in our league, each team has a different style as well. So you're going to play across, our conference. You're going to have teams that, play all zone or press or are really fast, or who play in the half court only. So getting a chance to play, Youngstown, Cleveland State, those teams prepare you because they're both very good teams, and to me, getting the opportunity to play good teams in the non-conference help you get ready for your conference season, and playing different styles helps you get ready for your conference season. So we may not play a team that pressed all that much, but having a chance to play Youngstown early in the year allows us, when somebody does press us, to get ready for that, or a team that plays, similar to how Coach Felton plays, allows you to prepare when you're playing a team in your league that plays similarly. It allows you to talk about, hey, when we played these guys, it was similar to that, if it's a half-court game or a full-court game. So just playing good competition, to me, is the most important thing. And having this event in Northeast Ohio, I think the schools of Northeast Ohio deserve more respect from a basketball standpoint. So that's why, to me, the event, from the basketball standpoint, not the cause is a separate event, but from a basketball standpoint, for us to have this press conference here, that's important for all of our programs. For us to get people writing about our programs here in November or October, that's important for all of our programs, because there's not enough coverage of the 4 schools here, and this allows us a platform to start the season where everybody in Northeast Ohio that's a basketball fan is going to come to this game and doubleheader and get a chance to see all of us play. Our programs deserve it, our schools deserve it, and our players deserve it. So to me, that's more important than anything else with this.
Yeah, Elton, if you want to see all of our scrimmages, the results, just go to Jeff Goodman's Twitter account, because he's not only saying who we're playing, but the scores are out. Either he or John Rothstein, and you can see exactly who we play. Just to piggyback on Rob, I think it's, the matchups are going to be different every year, because I think some teams are going to have some seniors that are going to graduate, but I think just from a basketball perspective in Northeast Ohio, there's been so many kids out of this area that have played for all of our schools. So I think it's good for recruiting. I think it's good for the fan bases. I think it's just a good deal. We told Sarah we would sign a lifetime contract at Youngstown to play in this thing every year. For us, it's hard to get games. So we really struggled to get games. Last year we were all over the country, flying here, flying to Utah, South Dakota. We'd rather just sit here and play MAC schools, and we're going to play 3 of them this year. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, Elton, I don't know that I've identified any conference-wide trends in terms of you know, what makes up a conference. I think all the teams in our conferences are unique, and they can even change from year to year because one thing I have identified is there's a lot of good coaches in the 2 leagues, a lot of smart coaches who can figure out from year to year what gives their team the best chance to win stylistically and where to put their emphasis. You know, Rob might have the best opportunity to identify that because he's been here coaching in this region and has coached so many games, probably against Horizon League teams, along with his own conference. But I don't know that I can identify any, you know, thread that ties, you know, most of the MAC schools together or most of the Horizon League schools together.
I would echo his thoughts exactly when you asked the question. You know, I thought, first of all, from the standpoint of stylistically, I agree with Dennis. I haven't, you know, found necessarily a trend, and I think sometimes that can be a little bit of a misnomer, Elton, because I think each school, as Rob alluded to, can play differently. Stylistically, for me, I think it's more about certain coaches like to play certain ways. But even as Dennis said, you know, they're good coaches. Like 3 of these guys up here, you adjust and you adapt to your personnel, and you might play a certain way one year, might play a different way another year, although the core stuff for most coaches, you know, may stay the same. It certainly has for us during my, you know, 11 years. But, you know, I think for me it's a one game at a time deal. I haven't found necessarily any trends in, hey, the MAC's predominantly X, Y, or Z, the Horizon League is predominantly X, Y, or Z. I would have to agree with Dennis.
All right, next up.
Just one fact, since Coach Calhoun mentioned it, anybody else ready for a lifetime contract? Where do we sit with that? This is the 4th year. Was it a 4-year or a 2-year? 4 year. So we ready to sign another 4-year?
Well, I don't know if the contract's done moving forward, but from my understanding, I think all the coaches and the athletic directors are working hard to make this thing another 4 years.
Now, you go ahead, John.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Jared nailed it.
I'll start with John. John, you had some crippling injuries middle of the season last year. Biggest thing was Emmanuel with his heart condition. Can you give us an update on how he's doing?
Yeah, thus far it's been a real blessing. First of all, on the personal side, set aside the basketball.
Right.
E-Man has been able to play. He's healthy. He feels good. He's getting more and more confident every day. That's his, you know, currently his status. He's practicing and he's full go. And, you know, obviously from a basketball perspective, that's great. He wants to play. And I have seen a little bit different look in his eye because, you know, I've had some conversations with him, and when something gets taken away from you and you think for a brief moment you might not be able to play ever again, it's amazing how that flips a switch, you know, for all of us and for him. So it's been a real blessing. But you're right, it was a blow for sure. And then obviously the next game, at that time when we were playing, E-Man was the first guy on the depth chart at the 5 spot, and Jaden Sales was the second guy. And both those guys had back-to-back games of season enders with 17 and 16 games to go respectively. But what happened for us is I've got some pretty tough guys, and they fought and battled and didn't have any excuses. And then the last 10 games of the year, we actually played the best we had played all year without those 2 guys. A guy like Dan played a lot of the 5, you know, not accustomed to necessarily doing that, didn't complain one single second, just played. And so I give our guys a lot of credit. Thought we really came along in that regard, developed a little bit of a toughness about us late. We were playing the 7 guys, and in those 7-man rotation, 2 of them were walk-ons, and those guys helped us too. So I really give our guys a lot of credit. We're a much different team, as Dennis mentioned. You know, he feels like his team's more talented. We feel like our team's more talented. We're deeper. We're more skilled, we're more athletic, and but as we all know, talent's not ever enough. You still have to have those intangible things: chemistry, leadership, synchronization, competitive toughness, coachability, body language, attitude, being in the right place. And we're making a lot of progress in those areas from where we were in year one as well. Those are kind of our foundational things that I mentioned earlier, and I think it's what gives us a chance to, have an opportunity to be certainly a better basketball team than we were in year one.
And Jalen is in full health right now?
Jaden's full health as well, yes.
I would like to ask you and Coach Felton the international side of basketball. You picked up Riak, Deng Riak from ECU from Australia. Dennis, you brought another couple, one from Switzerland, another from Belgrade. To help with, did Stefan bring him over here? What is the international flavor of the game, of their game, coming to Division I basketball? That's what I wanted to really.
Sure. Well, I mean, basketball is slowly but surely taking over the globe as the world sport. More and more players all around the world are taking up the game, so the talent pool is growing. We don't have to, remain staying within the boundaries of the United States to find good players. For us personally, international players tend to fit our style of play because we like players who are with size, who are skillful and have a feel for the game. And so the international players that we look for, those are some of the qualities we look forward to getting with them. So I started recruiting internationally many years ago when I was an assistant at Providence College, and it was just a way to better compete in the Big East of those days, where we couldn't necessarily beat Syracuse and Georgetown and St. John's and folks like that head-to-head for players year in and year out, but we could find some players overseas where the competition for them might not be quite as fierce, but they would be very good players. And so ever since my days as an assistant, I believed in the power of recruiting internationally, and like I said, for the style that we like to play at Cleveland State, it happens to be a really good fit too, where they can prosper and help us succeed.
I agree with Dennis. The game's becoming more and more global. For us, it's about finding the right fits. Dang was going to be with us today, but he had some academic class this afternoon, a couple classes that he needed to stay for. He'd have been with us. You'd had 4 guys sitting here, one from Melbourne, Australia, one from, Christian's going to say Chicago, but he grew up during his high school years in Florida. Dan's from Houston, Texas, and Jamon's from right here in Northeast Ohio, Cleveland. So, our roster is indicative of that game becoming more and more global. Now, I will tell you, our recruiting starts inside out. This is a great area. One of the things that excited me about the job was Northeast Ohio basketball. Having a feel for that in my previous stops inside the state and predominantly being from the Midwest in terms of my college coaching career outside of North Carolina State. So, we work inside out, but for us, it's, we're more about fit. And obviously that fit perspective and exactly what we're looking for has led us into different areas, which once again I think is indicative of what Dennis just alluded to, the fact that the game is becoming more and more global.
I wanted to comment real quick because all my players are from the United States, but I have 2 freshmen, and sometimes I think they're Martians because they do stuff that is like out of this world type stuff on the court, and they make me scratch my head. So right now I don't have any international players, but I do sometimes feel like I got guys that are not from the planet Earth playing on my team.
Well, we can go get Ray Walston or Martin the Martian for them. I would like to ask Rob, how big was Buffalo's win in the tournament last year when they beat Arizona? Later on, they had their player moved on to the #1 pick in the NBA. But how big was that for the conference? And also, yes, the release will be next week of a favorite in both divisions. Do you and maybe John feel, are they still the team to beat in the MAC overall, or is there a couple of teams we may be surprised when we get into January?
You know, I'm pretty sure they'll be picked to win the league, and probably rightfully so, but as you know, and everybody knows who follows our conference, what is picked in November and what happens in March are often two very different things. So there's a long road between now and then, and you know, I think everybody right now feels like they have an opportunity to win our conference. Our conference is always very, very strong, very, very competitive, and I do think it's great for the league that they won a game in the tournament. I think it gives everyone who plays in this conference knows that they're good enough, you know, as an individual, and their team could be good enough to advance in the NCAA tournament. And then you go out on the court and you prove your worth during the course of the league season. And I know that our team, you know, we're going to look at that assuming that they're picked, and that's going to give us a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. As I would assume, I'm looking at the Akron guys, they're shaking their heads right now too. That's just how you are as a competitor, and that's how you should be.
For years, it seems like the balance of power in the MAC has been in the Eastern Division, and John, may I have a comment from that as well? Do you see starting to balance out now with the Western teams like at Toledo, maybe in Eastern Michigan, maybe a Ball State to challenge for a better word, the behemoths of the Eastern Division?
Well, I think the one thing, you know, and this is just my opinion, Rob's been in the league longer than I have, so he may have, you know, other thoughts on it. So 4 years at Ohio and now 2 years at Akron. And it really hit me. I felt this way, but then it hit me the other day when, you know, you talked about the preseason, all that stuff. You know, we have to take a look at that with our media relations director as we have to send our stuff in. And I started realizing, and I knew it, but then you see it on paper, how many seniors there are in our league. Good players, too. Jamon's a senior, he's a good player. These three guys back here are seniors, they're good players. And there are a ton of them all over the league, as much or more so than any year of my 6 that I've been in the league. And I think the balance between the East and the West, when I look at that, is a strong 1 through 12, certainly based on those 6 years. Now, Rob has experience not only as a head coach, a lot longer than me in the league, but also as an assistant on top of that. So he may have a different viewpoint on it, but for me, inside that window, I think it's as competitively challenging as I've ever seen it, top to bottom. And I love that. And I love challenges. Our guys love challenges. We love to compete. And, you know, we're looking forward to that challenge.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, Joe.
Just for all the coaches, is this a good way to start the season, this event? You're playing schools that you're very familiar with, they're rivals. Maybe the event moves later in the year or something. Just your thoughts about starting the season off with this.
No, I think it's a perfect way, because I think it gets the people in Northeast Ohio revved up about hoops. You know, Ohio is a big football state, as we all know as well. So I think it kind of puts a little light on our student athletes early. So no, I think the date is perfect.
I couldn't agree more with that one. Like, I think this is a great way to start the season, and a great way for everybody to start talking about basketball here in Northeast Ohio.
Yes, I agree with starting the season with this event, because it's just a great way to grab everybody's attention and let them know that it's basketball season, and, you know, gives us a chance to, you know, get exposure as programs right in our own communities.
All right. Anybody else with any questions? There'll be an opportunity for one-on-one after this as well. You all good? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending today's event once again. Pardon me. 4th annual Northeast Ohio Coaches versus Cancer doubleheader is happening Saturday, November 10th. Akron and Youngstown State at 4:30. Kent State at CSU at 7 o'clock. Once again, tickets start lower level seats $15 for both games. Portion of the proceeds going to the American Cancer Society. You can get tickets at csuvikings.com or call 216-687-4848. Coaches, thanks a lot. Great job, guys.